What is up, guys? Sumi here with ThoughtCast, and today I'm talking about the best age to find a guy that you want to marry. I get this question all the time from women. Where can I find a guy that will marry me? Where can I find good guys that I can settle down with? Because look, there's a lot of benefits to being married for a woman. I'm not saying they're not good for men, but in a real statistical sense, marriage is a lot of vulnerabilities for men. This is not a video about that, though. This is not a video about why men should not be married or why men should be married. This is a video strictly aimed at women that are looking to find a guy to settle down with for a long-term relationship, whether that's you signing that contract or not. Now, there's a lot of conflicting evidence on this. There's a lot of people that say all sorts of stuff, but I'm going to give you my take on it and what I've seen in the dating marketplace today. I've coached over 1,000 people last year when it comes to their personal relationships, and there's a lot of things that I've seen that work for people and that don't work for people. Number one thing that you need to understand when you're trying to find the right guy is he disciplined? Okay, this is a big thing. You need to find a guy that is disciplined mentally, because that's what's going to cause the relationship to do well. That's what's going to cause that man to be a leader, because discipline is really what opens up the doors to success in any aspect in life. So if a man is disciplined, he's not going to break a commitment that he made to himself, to the partnership, hint, hint, cheating, being disloyal, or really anything else around him, like his work, his business, so on and so forth. Just because a guy's in shape and he's disciplined physically does not mean he's disciplined mentally. But I'll tell you this, if a guy is not disciplined physically, then he's definitely not disciplined mentally. So there's certain characteristics that you look for in his life where he has his stuff together, he's organized, he's on time, he's taking care of his hygiene, he's physically in shape, that can kind of lead to the idea that he is mentally disciplined. Because a mentally disciplined man will do all these things. But that correlation is not causation. So you really got to allow a man to have about 2 to 3 months with you to really identify who he really is. But let's get back to the major point. Where can I find disciplined men? Where should I be looking? And there's one major thing I'm going to talk about in this video. It's the age that you should be looking for in a guy. So let's get this out of the way. The younger guys that are like 22, 25, 23, keeping it real, like there are some guys that are disciplined, but it's very, very small. It's an astronomically small percentage. Let's put it like this, right? Imagine that you're an NBA coach and you're drafting players, and there's a guy that's 5'8". And, there are guys that are 5'8" that can dunk a basketball, right? But at the same time, that's not necessarily the norm. So I'm going to pick someone that makes sense for the team based off their height, because it's the number one stat when it comes to basketball in a sense, instead of just trying to go for the outlier. So what I'm saying here is, don't go for the outliers. Don't go for the 23-year-old that may be disciplined, right? It's better to just aim in the area and see what you can find. And if you do find a 23-year-old that's really disciplined, that's great. But the reason I'm saying these younger guys don't have discipline is because a lot of guys are just getting out of college. They don't have financial stability. They're not at the level that you want them to be at. They're not going to be able to raise a family and really settle down. And to be honest with you, when guys have a little bit of money, when guys make that little bit of money after college, they really start to kind of go wild. And I'm just saying this as a guy, they start to explore. They want to go out. They want to take boys trips. They want to go sleep with a lot of women. I mean, it's fun for a lot of young guys. When they first start getting a little bit of money, they can take a girl out to a restaurant. They can buy a nice car. They get that attention, that validation, that glorification. They get that party lifestyle that they want. But once again, there are those men in that category that are definitely disciplined. But what I will tell you is that you've got to look at men that have their life together, or that you have an idea of what their trajectory of their life is going to be. My advice to you, from a relationship coach that has coached over 1,000 people last year, is to go for men around the age of 32 to 35. 32 to 35 is a sweet number. That is the number you want to go for. Don't go for a guy that's too young, right? You're typically not going to get a good result there. There might be some outliers, but the exception does not break the rule. And don't go for a guy that is too old, right? This is more so aimed at the women that are in their 20s that really want to settle down and marry a man and want to really step into a long-term partnership. Go for a guy that's 32 to 35, because those men have about 10 years plus of time to get their life together. If he does not have his life together by 32, I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably not going to happen. Because what happens is, number one, you lose neuroplasticity around 25 to 28. So you really become cemented in your personality really after 28 on a late scale. So that man is going to be who he is for right now and for the future, unless there's some significant amount of trauma that changes him, which you don't wish upon anybody. You don't wish significant amounts of trauma on anybody. And if it happens, it's typically out of your control. You don't ever want to induce massive trauma to somebody. So If he is a kind, nurturing, caring, loving, smart, successful man at 32, or at 28, really, I should say, then he's going to be the same way for the rest of his life. If he's not like that by 28 or 32, he's probably going to stay the same way. Now, why wouldn't I say 28? Well, it's because really after 30, you have that mental 3 in front of your numerical age, and you start to get a little bit more serious in life, and you start to enter that chapter of the 30s. Also, in addition to this, those men have a solid 10 years outside of college. Most men finish up college around 22 years old. And so you have 10 years to figure it out, to go through a couple businesses, to get your life together, and that decade is very powerful. A decade full of power, strength, testosterone, aggression is really going to allow him to create the best life possible. His 20s should be a period of time where he's just dominating. Find a guy at 32 that does not have his stuff together, probably not a good idea and probably should stay away from him. If you find a guy at 32 that has his stuff together and you go to the steps to verify this, then you know you have a good catch. Here's my advice for all the young women out there. If you're young, especially in your early 20s, go for a guy that's older. Because these men are going to be looking for girls, especially the ages of 20 to 23. I know that a lot of girls this age, you aren't even thinking about marriage. You're like, oh my God, that's so weird. But at some point in life, you're thinking about settling down with a partner, being locked up. I'm not talking about a government contract here. I'm just talking about the idea of long-term partnership. Start figuring it out now. When you're young, you have a high level of sexual attraction. A woman's sexual attraction is the most powerful commodity in the world. I am telling you, people don't get this. I know men that have built major businesses, recruited thousands of employees, built corporations that do over $100 million a year. And their wife, well, she was a server at a restaurant when he met her. And she demands that he be available only for her. Like, you gotta understand, like, those guys that are doing it at a high level, they've earned it so high, they're gonna say, no, you've got to share me because I've built everything for myself. And there's certain situations where those women marry these men and these men cheat and they do whatever they want, and this woman gets half of everything this man has built. It is crazy what exists in the world today because a woman's attraction is the most powerful thing. If a girl looks good, she can really get any guy. Keeping it real with you. If she knows how to look good, that's the first step. If she knows how to talk and maneuver herself, she can get anybody. So if you're a good-looking girl and you're young, start looking for men that have their stuff together and start looking for men that can provide you a lifestyle, the emotional support, and the organic chemistry that you need to have a happy, healthy, stable life. You got to be looking older, though. I'm 29 years old. And to be honest with you, I'm just starting to get a lot of stuff together in my life. Like, I'm making a lot of money now. I got a lot of stuff going on for me. And now I'm starting to think more so, hey, I need to settle down. Hey, I need to lock up. That's really the mindset that I'm on, respectfully for everybody out there. It took me a long time to get here, though. If I had settled down at 24, 25, it wouldn't have been a successful marriage. It wouldn't have worked out. If I had settled down a little bit earlier, it probably wouldn't have been a good time for that girl because she would have seen me in my building phase. I'm just now getting to a stage in my life where I'm more so coasting and relaxing, and that's wonderful for setting up a family and being in a safe, secure, modern household. But because I've done it at a good level, just like every other guy out there, I'm going to look for the highest quality woman I can get. And typically that's a woman that's young, that doesn't have a lot of baggage, that's innocent, that is ready to live a life that's full of energy, that's positive, that is mature to a degree. So I don't want her super young, but these are the characteristics I'm looking for. So if you're a young woman and you want to find that lifestyle, and if you're kind of thinking outside of the box of everybody in modern society, where you're like, look, I want kids and a family, which eventually everybody does at some point, besides like that 1% that doesn't. You want to start aiming for those guys that are 32 to 35. Now, if you start getting a little bit older, there's an issue there because, first off, these guys have been single for a long period of time and haven't committed to a woman. Number two, you may not be sexually attracted to these guys because they may be a little bit older. Nothing wrong with that as long as you like their personality. And last but not least, they may be in a situation where they've been divorced, they don't ever want to get married again, and they don't want to be in long-term relationships, and their mindset might be completely different from yours. Last but not least, it could be something more so sinister where they're very manipulative and they just like to kind of play around, which is not good for you in this particular situation of just trying to find a long-term partner. Look for a guy that's 32 to 35, has 10 years out in the working place, and has built something up for himself. I hope this information makes sense to you guys. Shout out to Candy for letting us use this amazing penthouse to film this podcast in. They have amazing locations downtown. If you're ever looking to move downtown in Cleveland, definitely hit up Candy. And if you guys ever want to connect with me, all the links are down in the description below. Until next time, Sumi out.